What's up, guys? Tom Fazio here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're old to the channel, welcome. We tend to talk about stuff related to mind, body, performance, personal growth, martial arts, all that jazz. And I'm taking a bit of a tangent for a few videos here to talk about some of the things underlying my my new book, Law of the Die. Very much dealing with the principles of randomness, the premise of randomness, and how much it can impact our life when we're unaware of it, and how much we can potentially activate randomness in life for positive outcome, for good luck. In this particular video, I'll be talking about a problem I call the Boulder Problem. So the Boulder Problem is one that's near and dear to my heart. And this is a big problem in the personal growth domain, big problem in the mind-body domain, and in my opinion, it's something that is, it's not taken seriously enough. Well, I'll explain it first before we go into the issues too much. So in my last book, and in, well, both of my last books, in The Essence of Lightness, I talk about the Myth of Sisyphus a little bit. I talk about Albert Camus' interpretation of the Myth of Sisyphus. For those of you guys who don't know, Sisyphus was a prankster god condemned to an eternity of rolling a boulder up a hill only to watch it roll back down again, right? And this was considered eternal punishment to live a life of monotonous mediocrity. And so, as you can imagine, right? But it's also a metaphor for all of our lives because, well, we wake up and we get up around the same time, we eat the same things, we go to the same jobs, maybe, we see the same people, and we also live lives that are very much rote and repetitive, right? And so it's an important question about where meaning comes from given these types of settings. So Albert Camus, existentialist, there's a floating hair, existentialist philosopher, asked us to think a little bit harder about this myth, and he encourages us to consider whether or not Sisyphus could be happy. If you guys have never read The Myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus' interpretation, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. There's videos on YouTube that actually break it down and go through it, and it's extremely thought-provoking and I think important. But so the premise of this is pretty simple. It's that, well, there's an objective reality, there's an objective plight, the boulder, but then there is a subjective interpretation or analysis, how I feel about the boulder, how I let it affect me, whether or not I become stronger when I face my obstacles or my plights, or whether or not they weaken me and make me kind of collapse. And so in that challenge for all of us, it's really a challenge to look at our own lives and our own plights and to say, well, how much of what we have going on needs to actually dictate our emotions, our thought, our feelings, right? So we had, Viktor Frankl, and I think it was Man's Search for Meaning, had a very similar question for us all. He was a psychologist, I think he was a neurologist, but he was also in a concentration camp in World War II, in the Holocaust. And similarly, he came to a conclusion that, between stimulus outside of us and response, the boulder, Sisyphus's interpretation, the response, there's space. And in that space, there's the power to change, right? And so this idea is what most people in the mind-body domain and the peak performance domain, this is what most people that are trying to deal with personal growth focus on, which is that space between stimulus and response and my power to choose how I interpret reality and the types of actions I can take in response. This is what weightlessness, for those of you who don't know, that's what my mind-body philosophy and methodology, this is largely what it focuses on, is those variables, those mind and body variables that are well within our control, right? The types of stimulants or stimulus needed, the types of stressors we need to add to our minds and our bodies to elicit certain types of adaptation, certain types of growth, become stronger, fitter, more focused, more passionate, more alive, all that cool jazz. But it largely ignores the other side of the equation, which is the very real boulder, right? Or in Viktor Frankl's case, the Nazis, right? In your case, you know, what's chafing your hide these days? What's a problem for you? What's making you feel a little bit heavy and depressed and tired? Or what do you just feel like you need to excel at or focus on and work on, right? It's a super relevant question, super relevant conversation for everybody to have, if not with other people, at least internal dialogue, because it's really a question about meaning making. And so, the Boulder Problem. If you guys saw the last video I did on uncertainty, the uncertainty problem, the Boulder Problem is kind of a derivative of that, which is to say that, well, we don't know what we don't know. We can't predict the future. And as such, we do know that the boulder is real. We don't necessarily know all of the things that led it to be in our lives, and we don't necessarily know how to resolve its presence, but we know that we'll probably be better off without it. And so the mind-body approach, personal growth approach, all this stuff essentially helps you reorient around those obstacles and conflicts in your life. It helps you look at them in a new way, helps you reframe them, maybe walk away, but rarely does it give you the tools and the power to destroy the boulder, right? And this is a really difficult challenge. And in my worldview and assumption, I'm not sure in the game of life that we can have a reasonable roadmap to destroying the boulder, right? To crushing obstacles in our lives, because life is so complex. It just is complex, right? And people that try to reduce it to a small subset of variables fail all the time, right? Which is why you could find the best type of relationship coach out there. They will still fall victim to the mistake of falling in love and getting their heart broken. You could still find a serial entrepreneur that's built 10 businesses, 50 businesses, and then on the 51st, it'll be a dog, or they'll completely bomb, right? And so there's this dissociation between even giving our best effort, knowing as much as we possibly can about our environments, having specific skill sets, that life is too complex to bottle, right? We fail at it constantly. Which is why in 2008, you found the majority of some of the best investors in the world go belly up when the market crashed, right? This is stuff that shouldn't happen in a world that's more easily predictable. So that leaves us in a point where we probably need to address the boulder. Not all problems can be addressed internally through perspective. In some cases, we need to destroy the conflicts and obstacles in our lives and move forward. And also leaves us in a precarious place because, well, we don't know how to do that necessarily if it's a serious problem. It might be a job that you've been in for the last year. It might be a relationship that's not working for you. It could be a million different things. You know the issues. I've got my own. But one of the proposals that I make within Law of the Die, and that I think is worth considering, is that, well, if we can't predict the future, we don't know how to necessarily attack all problems, why don't we just do stuff, right? What are your 10 best guesses? What are your 3 best guesses? How do we create a call to action that allows us to test and trial options in life that might get us farther ahead? Right? Because we can't predict the types of things that will necessarily guarantee success. We can have assumptions, and you should do those things. I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things, but rarely is that going to be enough, right? We also need to go after issues that are complex in ways that we don't know and we can't predict. And for that, I think we should roll the dice. And if it's not physical dice, we need to ask ourselves, how can we trial more options that will resolve problems faster? Because so much time is wasted going down a specific direction, not getting what we want out of something, and then just saying, well, I'm trying, I'm doing my best, and it's just not working. Fuck that. You're doing your best. Great. Now how can you do what 10 other people would do if you were those people? And the dice is an opportunity. It's a challenge to say, well, in your own thought process, you're limited to one mind. Through habits, through circumstance, through reason. What if you could have 10 minds? What if you could do things that 10 other people would be doing? And that's the challenge of the die. It opens you up to an infinite number of opportunities to solve problems and not get stuck in your own limited reason or insight. Yeah, pretty cool fun shit. So I hope that made sense. That's a little bit about the Boulder Problem, right? It's not in this game of momentum, in this game of solving our own issues and problems in life and moving forward and personal growth. I'll just lump that all into one bag. We do have the stuff that we can work on the inside. Perspective, tools for awareness, tools for personal resilience, strength, fortitude, so on and so forth. Weightlessness in my camp addresses those things, but how do we destroy the effing boulder? That's the question that the die answers. And I'm not sure that it needs to be about a die. I'm not sure that you have to take any of these things on for yourself, but I think that the question is meaningful, right? We need to ask meaningful questions about these dilemmas and try to isolate these factors, because the things that allow us to fight inner battles, I don't believe are the same that allow us to fight battles dealing with objective reality. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Let me know your thoughts. We'd love to hear your thoughts or feedback in the comments below. And in the meantime, like, subscribe, be weightless, and if you want to have anything to do with the coming book launch, check out some details in the description below. Be weightless, guys. Until the next time.